We are live. What is up, guys? Thank everybody that's in the chat room already waiting. What a dominant performance that was tonight. I was not expecting that. I mean, I know Cincinnati's a bad football team, but they've been able to run the ball pretty much on everybody. They're not too far ranked apart from West Virginia in overall running. So on the season, I think they're ranked somewhere in the top 25. So that was impressive defensive performance. The offensive performance was also impressive, but I could have saw something like that coming, maybe not to the level that it went over 400 yards. I don't care who it is, guys. FCS, FBS, Division Three. If you run for 400 yards in a game, that's more than just manhandling the guy in front of you. That's you were better. You were just better. That's not we missed our assignments. That is the guys across from you were better. Um, the WVU offensive line was left off the Joe Moore Award watch list. I'm going to be doing a video on that. I'm pissed off about it. This is at least a top five offensive line in football. I understand the team overall is a little bit limited, especially on defense, and they have fallen apart in some big games this year. But overall, you can't deny this offensive line is, if you put them on, let's say you put this offensive line in Tuscaloosa, they would still be 9-1. They would still be in the college football playoff hunt, and nobody would know the difference. This is an elite offensive line. It's as good as we've had since Dan Moses and Jeremy Sheppy, and those guys were in West Virginia. And it really pisses me off they get slept on like they do. But that is what it's like when we play in the Big 12, right? So I'll tell you what, guys. I got to give a credit to my boy Jordan from Country Roads Webcast. He's been on Jaheim White from the start. On tape in high school, obviously he showed the ability to catch the ball in the backfield. He showed the ball to be explosive, but not this explosive. And I guess because it was against high school talent, you just don't always see because all Division One athletes look better than everybody around them usually. Jaheim White looks he's more exciting than I'm more excited over him than I was CJ last year because CJ's was he was just playing hard, if that makes sense, in landing in the hole. CJ didn't know anything about playing running back really, and had very little time to prepare, and so almost by ignorance did he do what he did against Pitt. Not that he's not a talented, great player. Jaheim White's played running back his entire life, and it shows. I think he can be our version of Deuce Vaughn, the Kansas State running back that was their all-world everything for like 3 or 4 years. So if we can get Jaheim to stay, he is priority number one for me in the offseason. We know who we are. We're a running football team. I give Jaheim White a bag right now. Do it now. Don't even wait till Baylor. Give it to him now because that kid's going to be special. It's not if, it's when. You need to lock him up while you can. That's number one. Number two, I was really proud of the way the team responded after just an embarrassing loss last week. I was almost apathetic coming into this game, and the ground performance that this team had today is it's mind numbing. Really, listen to these stats: 630 total yards. Only 200 of those were passing yards. 424 rushing yards, 9.8 yards per play, 31 first downs, 6 for 11 on third, 2 for 2 on fourth, which continues the trend. Only 65 total plays, 5 penalties, so that continues. Time of possession won the time possession game by 10 minutes. So that's pretty incredible. And then you look at the individual stats. I really wasn't sure who to put on my thumbnail, but I figured I put Garrett on here a couple times this year. He deserved it, but Jaheim White on 21 totes, that's 10 yards a carry, 204 rushing yards, and a touchdown. Garrett Green had 11 for 154 and 12 out of 19 for 210. He'll probably end up winning. One of these two guys will probably win Offensive Player of the Week in the Big 12, I would say, unless somebody else is having an insane game. I don't know how you can deny Garrett Green with a 150 rushing yard day and a 210 yard passing yards passing kind of day. So we'll see. Oh, and by the way, go ahead and put Jaheim just almost over 300 yards. He had a 75-yard bomb that he caught as well. On the receiving end, not a whole lot to speak of. It was spread around to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different receivers. And then you look at the defense, right? They give up 342 total yards. You're going to win a lot of football games when you do that. A lot of that was in garbage time. Only 191 passing, 151 rushing. That is well off the season average for Cincinnati. 5.9 yards per play. That's going to win you a lot of football games. You hold somebody to 19 first downs. You win a lot of football games. 5 or 12 on third down. Total plays 58. This is exactly the formula when WVU has won this year. This is the formula. You win you steal plays from people by winning time of possession and playing solid defense. Although the defense broke down in the end, a lot of that was taking some of the better players out. This was an impressive performance to beat them 42-21, which it was really a lot worse than that. Like I said, they scored some in garbage time, so we know that. Let's get to some of the comments. And by the way, guys, if you want to get your voice heard out there, I'll be selecting random comments. Leave a super chat as always. As I say every single week, this is what I do for a living. So as you know, I appreciate it if you can. John Kelly, what's up, my brother? He said over 400 rushing yards today. We're a top 10 rushing offense in FBS. Absolutely. What's up, Mountaineer Lair with Kenny? To their defense, they had a bad game. They proved they were better than the proof in the pudding. You're talking about against Oklahoma, Kenny? I'm guessing. We played Cincinnati. They could not do that versus OU. Yeah, that's a fair point, but it's still okay to be excited about the win, and being 7-4. I don't see what losing to Oklahoma has to do with about being excited today. I mean, did we blow it last week? We sure the hell did. Will we be in the conference title discussion this week after this win? If we won last week, yeah, we would be. Did BYU, a team we beat 37-7, almost beat Oklahoma today? Yeah. And I don't want to hear that Dylan Gabriel was hurt. He played the entire first half, and that thing was 17-17 at halftime. So somehow BYU was able to stay with them, although it was at home at BYU, and they had that crowd was sold out, which is a tough place to play. It just boggles the mind, doesn't it? You look at Oklahoma State and Houston today. All of a sudden, Dana Holgerson's turned them guys around. They're going to probably win their second big game in a row. I don't know if they beat Oklahoma State or not. Does anybody know? I'll be curious to find out stuff, to be honest with you. Let's see. I can look at the comments as well. Houston beats the Cowboys so far, so it's still going on. Whoa. Oh, it was like 14-3 at halftime when I looked. It's 29-13 in the third quarter, so it's not over. Not over by a long shot. But it looks like Ollie Gordon is hurt, according to the reports I'm reading at the bottom of the screen. That changes that football team. They're one of those teams that you take away their best player and they go down a couple runs. Ollie Gordon, similar to how Jaheim White for us was tonight, Ollie Gordon is like times 10 for them. Unfortunately, like Dylan Gabriel gets hurt against BYU. Ollie Gordon gets hurt against Houston. We don't catch breaks like that. Not that I want anybody to get hurt or seriously hurt. I'd like them to just get hurt for our game, and that's it. Well, what are you talking about there? Oh, yeah, from Jaheim White. Yeah. Yeah, well, he's a young kid still. He's going to make mistakes. I didn't see nothing wrong with it from the Mountaineer side of things. Oh man, Jacob Yoho as always is here. What's up, Andrew? Thank you guys for all coming in and joining the chat room. Don't forget to like the video, guys. There's 36 of you guys in here right now, which is a little lower than normal. I don't know if the OU loss is impacting this or maybe it's the holidays or what have you, but not as many people as usually. We usually have around 100 people. That's all right, though. Like the video. If you can, real quick, just click off of it, like it, come back if you want. Leave a comment, if you're watching this video after the fact. Would really appreciate that, y'all. And as always, don't forget to subscribe. If you're not subscribed to Mountaineer Paul Talk Football, I'm like this close. I'm like a few subscribers away from 2,000. So then that's like a milestone number for me. When I set out, I really wanted to hit that. 1,000 was great. Really wanted 2,000. That lets you know that people are continuing to watch. The first 1,000, I think, are just people finding you. The second 1,000 is like, okay, people are still liking what you do, hopefully. So that's the goal, anyways. Karate Kid, right? Is that maybe I should have had ChatGPT dress Jaheim White up in a Karate Kid attire, and or something crazy. What's up, Timothy Hetrick Jr.? It's hard to believe that we destroyed BYU and today almost beat Oklahoma. That's what I'm saying. If you hear coaches say it every week. It's and what's funny is the number keeps growing. It used to be you could say with confidence 18 to 22-year-old kids, right? No, now it's like 18 to 26 because of the COVID year and the multiple transfers and people using the red shirts and so. But I'll just say 23, 18 to 23-year-old young men. I think a lot of them come in as kids. Trying to keep them up every week is tough, and it's a physical game. And there's a lot of travel in the Big 12 too, a lot of time zones. So today I think Cincinnati had they could have daggone near had a bus trip to Morgantown, and vice versa had we gone to Cincinnati. All that stuff matters, I guess. I can't really predict it. I'll say this too: Retzloff for BYU is going. It's not if with him either. It's just like Jaheim White. It's when Retzloff is going to be a top 3, top 4 quarterback in the league, probably next year. Look for that kid to be really special next year at BYU. He's a really talented player. We were lucky to catch him his first game at BYU. I don't think they beat us on that day. We won 37-7. But it was obvious that day he throws from a ton of different arm angles. He throws off platform. He doesn't have to set his feet to make the right throw. And I'll be surprised if Retzloff is not being talked about for, newcomer of the year, player of the year, something like that next year. Maybe not player of the year, but you know what I'm saying. He's going to be a good player. Get rid of Neil Brown and bring Jimbo home, says Joe Parrish. Well, I don't think it's going to happen, Joe. We would have to lose to Baylor, and I hadn't found myself, raise your hand in the comments today if you thought to yourself, if we lose to Cincinnati, we could still win next week, win 7 games, win 8 with the bowl game. We could still win 8 games and switch coaches, right? That's what I thought about this today. I'm not saying I wanted it, because it's easy to convince yourself like, we could still win 8 games and have a pretty decent year. If we lose in Cincinnati, we're probably going to make a coaching change. And a lot of people would be happy with that. But I just can't bring myself to root against the kids, in my squad. This is who I love, bleed gold and blue, and would die for. I just can't bring myself to root against our team. It's not like tanking in the NFL. It's different. This is a state pride thing, no matter what for me. This is family handed down. I got this tattoo on my chest for a reason. Well, you guys can't see it, but I got this tattoo on my chest for a reason. My dad's memorial. and it means everything to me. So rooting against these kids is just something I can't do. And while I called for Neil Brown's job last week after the Oklahoma game, I was really emotional. I still have major concerns about whether or not he can lead us in big games from here on out. He's never won a game on the road against a ranked team at Morgantown. He's never been ranked in the top 25. You hear it all the time now. Everybody knows that stuff. A combined coming into this week 27-32 record against the teams we beat. Add Cincinatti to that, they're 3-8 now. So that would be 30-40. So it's not good, no matter how you slice it, right? However, look at it like this with me. This is the only way we can look at it, guys. At least he took a step this year, from 5-6, right? He went up to 8, possibly. We're assuming 8, maybe 9 if we win a bowl game. We win 9, I'm going to be okay with that. I'm going to have to be. And then you better damn take another step next year, or else I guess we'll just be miserable, right? Of course, our schedule was weak, Bill. I get that. But you can only play what they set in front of you. I find that to be a weak argument sometimes because it's not like you can change it, you know? I mean, you see Alabama beat teams they're way better than by 3 points sometimes, and you can never really tell what kind of football team you've got by the strength of schedule. And Houston beating Oklahoma State right now, BYU almost beating Oklahoma today. That kind of, those kind of things spell it out for me. Like strength of schedule, I think that's why the committee kind of knocked that down a couple pegs. It's not as important as it used to be. Our schedule does lighten up a little bit next year, hopefully. So we'll see. We've got Penn State at home. That's going to be big. But look, you talked about this a lot. Obviously, this backfield can be possibly the most special in school history if you count C.J. Garrett or Nico because he can run, and Jaheim, right? That is as special a backfield as we've had since probably Steve and Noel was in the same backfield together, right? And Pat. I don't know if we'll go to those heights, but that's something to start with. If you can convince Wyatt Milan to stay one more year long with Tomas Remack, you still got Brandon Yates, Jaquay Hubbard. You'll probably lose Nestor and Frazier. That's still a great nucleus of offensive line returning. You return every skill position player. Obviously, we're going to lose players to the portal, and I get that. And then my sources inside the Country Roast Trust, and you can bank on this. We will have more money from the trust this coming season, especially if we get to that 9-win mark. There will be support for Neil Brown, and he'll be in a position almost where he can't fail. I would hope, right? So at the end of the day, we've got those linebackers on the other side I love to talk about. James Hurd, Josiah Trotter Jr., Ben Cutter, and don't forget about our redshirt freshman that's been injured and really changed our defense, right? And Travius Latham. So those 4 guys right there are really, really special. I think Trey Latham can move to Bandit. I really do. He was that good at pass rushing. James Hurd, I thought he was going to be way better than he was, but he's been injured and be able to play for us this year. Those 4 guys are going to be special. Our defensive line, we have a lot of the majority of those guys coming back. And then you're talking about retooling instead of reloading or rebuilding. And I like the sound of that. So I said all that and what Stephen A. Smith calls a soliloquy to say, I can talk myself into buying into Neil Brown for one more year. What say you guys? Let me know down in the comments. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in as always. Like the video is all. I mean, you know the drill. Please, I hope that you guys subscribe if you're not subscribed. John Cunningham says, I think regardless of how the rest of the year goes, Jimbo at least needs a call to see if he's even interested. Maybe, yeah, maybe. I mean, look, I was looking at it before today. I mean, listen, Baylor's worse than Cincinnati, so I don't think we're going to win that football. I don't think they're going to beat us next week. So Neil Brown's probably going to stick around, guys. We just have to get used to the idea. Is it what some of us want? No, but we don't always know what's best for us either. So I think Neil has done a lot of things better than he did the year before this year. It's like this, guys. If there's 10 math problems on the board and 7 are right, 3 are wrong, what do you focus on? The 3 that are wrong or the 7 that are right? With Neil, you can choose to focus on the 7 that are right. Did he prove to be a good offensive coordinator this year overall? Yes. The offensive scheme and play calling has been good, regardless of opponent. That includes Oklahoma. There were some things about that game I question, like keeping Garrett in the pocket. I don't know what the reason was for that. I don't know why they didn't roll him out more, running more. I don't know why. But generally speaking, this scheme is exactly how we've won in the past, with running backs, with an offensive line, and a mobile quarterback. This is who West Virginia is historically, and I think it's who we always will be. It's how we're going to win. We have to get athletes, in spots where other people ain't usually got them, and that's just what it is. Now everybody does it, but back when we had Pat and everybody like that, everybody had pocket passers still. Now everybody's kind of doing that, but Neil runs a pretty original offense. This is not something you see everywhere right now. The RPO system is, but the way Neil does it with all the eye candy and the motion, there's only a couple guys out there that really do it like that right now. Nicky over at Kansas does it a lot, and Lane uh, Kiffin over at Ole Miss does it a lot too. So I think so, John. I think there's a definite, you know, you can definitely see it possibly happening. I mean, there is a shot. Now, I do worry. I'm not going to lie, guys. By the way, Arizona's going to be really damn good next year. I don't see if anybody saw that coming. Dion is going to get better from year 1 to year 2 at Colorado. They've just got too many 5-star guys, and they just don't have them. They don't have them on the offensive defensive line yet. If he retools it the right way, they got the skill position, and he'll get a quarterback. If they get the offensive defensive line out of the way with those 5-star guys like he's able to recruit, Colorado could very well turn into a really good football team next year. And you start to look at it, BYU is going to be improved probably with Retzloff. I hope I'm saying his name right. But the Big 12 is going to be tough next year. Utah is going to be good again. Um, some of the Pac teams coming over they're not pushovers at all. It's going to make the conference really interesting. I'm excited. I can't wait till next year to really break down this conference and see who's going to be the best. And wouldn't you just love to be the best in this conference? I mean, it would suck to be the best in this conference in a year that Texas and Oklahoma left, because people would cite that. Oh, you had to wait till they left to be any good. But I think we can be good in what could be a very underrated conference going forward. Big Dan T, my dude, man. Not to look too forward, but if we can get some good DB help out of the portal, be a dangerous team next year. I agree. I'll answer that question in just a second. I agree, Big Dan T. I don't know if you heard what I just said there a minute ago, but let me get a drink. My mouth's getting dry. Um, yeah, based on everything we have coming back, and my sources inside the Country Roads Trust say we're going to have a significant bump in NIL help, similar to what Hugs got, not quite as good, but similar to what he got for basketball. It really set him up. The football team is going to get a similar type bump, and we'll see how it plays out on the field. As long as we don't lose too much. But from what I've been told from a player on the team, anyway, that And because they've already had started to have some exit meetings with some of the players. Like if you'll notice, you didn't see Braham, you didn't see Jeremiah Aaron, you haven't seen Jalen Anderson, and I don't know if he's gone or not, but there have been players that have already been talked to. Excuse me, and they know they're leaving. And the estimation is probably 15 to 20 players are going to be gone, including graduation, maybe 25, and that's a workable number. I think that's every year. So, you just got to kind of get used to that number being what it is. We're going to lose a couple good players. We might lose a Jaheim White, or somebody like that. It's possible. But as long as I think we can weather the storm and then really plug and play. And I think we're going to get to the point to where we're finally going to get some Power Five, as long as Neil and those guys kind of make a little philosophy change. Because from what I understand, it's been we only have this amount of funds, so let's try to find and evaluate good players like Beanie Wells at Minnesota. He was a Power Five transfer, but Montre Miller is a guy that's a Group of Five transfer that's going to be back next year. Don't forget about him. He was injured all year. They said he was playing really well. We can only hope Jacoby Spells and Andrew Wilson Lamp take a step, but they might be gone. But I think we'll figure it out. I really do. You don't replace Zach Frazier, just like you don't replace Dan Moses, who if you don't know, was our Remington Award-winning center during the Pat White, Steve Slayton years. Um, but there's a reason Brandon Yates can play every spot on the offensive line. I think he is there's a good chance that he replaces. There's a kid coming in this year's class that I'm really, really high on. So we'll see if he can do it. Other than that, I think you look at the portal. Do you go out and look for, because you see how important an experienced center is to an offense. Maybe you go out in the portal and you snag one from, that fits your scheme. Um, there are ways to staunch the bleeding, right? But I don't know if you can never replace Zach Frazier, who's been in the system 4 years now, and gotten better somehow every year. And he was a freshman All American. So at the end of the day, we're never going to replace Zach. The best we can hope for is, listen, man, we'll give you a bag, stick around. But would that be more detrimental than just letting him go and moving on? These are questions I'm glad I don't have to answer myself. So, I don't know. I still think the offensive line can be good. Like I said earlier, I don't know if you were in here. If you can, as long as you can hold on to Wyatt Milam, Tomas Remack, and Brandon Yates, you got a chance, right? Then you're talking about replacing two, the right tackle, and then Jaquay Hubbard can come back again and play right guard. And maybe somebody beats one or two or both of those guys out, like a Nick Malone, who has played in spots really, really well for us this year. He's going to get a year better. Lanning Livingston is a guy who's going to get a year better. And then my freshman that I was talking about, Kyle Altuner. If you don't know who Kyle Altuner is yet, go turn on the film and go watch you some Kyle Altuner. He reminds me of Zach Frazier, and I know that's extremely high praise, but that's exactly who he reminds me of on film. Coming out of Fairmont, I thought when I saw Zach Frazier, I knew he was going to be a good player. Some players you could just tell. He had that wrestling background, so he had incredible bend, and he had obviously great core strength. Same thing with Kyle Altuner. Turn on the tape for Kyle Altuner. Altuner. He is in one of the most underrated offensive line signings of the offseason. I'm that big on the kid. So we'll see if maybe he can make a run. And by the way, we've got a couple other guys that I could talk about at length for as well. So I stay as up to date on our roster as anybody out there. I like to say there might be people that have more money than me. There might be people that have better backgrounds than me. but ain't nobody going to out research me. At least I try not to let them. So yeah, it's true. It's true. And look, Jimbo's 45-25 in the SEC, 180 games. Um, I here's my thing with Jimbo. It's not about the players he can get. I have no doubt he would bring in better players than what we have on the roster, probably the first day. Um, I actually recorded a video the other day. Let's see if I have it. It's of one of the Texas and A&M players before that game where they beat Mississippi State to death the other day. They give me 1 second, guys, and I'll try to find it. Um, they were talking about who they were going to play for. You know who they wanted to play for that day. Uh, yeah, it would take me forever. Anyway, um, those kids were talking about. They were yelling, "We got to do this for Jay." They were talking about Jimbo, and those kids love him. So do I think Aeneas Smith or some of those really high profile guys they have at Texas A&M would come with him? I think there's a shot he brings a couple. But what worries me is obviously he did underwhelm with the talent he had. Now in the Big 12, maybe the margin for error is a little smaller, and he would do better like he did in the ACC. That's one way of looking at it. But the offense, man, the offense that he runs is so outdated. There's just certain things about it that nobody does anymore. And unfortunately, he brought us guy. He brought somebody in, Bobby Petrino, who runs a very similar style offense. And I just that's the one thing I worry about with Jimbo. That and he's very well known for not letting the players have fun. If you notice today, Texas A&M for the first time since he was there was allowed to wear a different uniform other than the two that they wore. They wore an alternate all maroon jersey today for the first time. The receivers were allowed to wear sleeves underneath their uniforms, and he has these weird rules like that that I think he looks at as like a way to maybe be to be disciplined, but it takes the fun out of the game for kids when listen, man, looking cool and having cool jerseys is like 15% of it, you know? Like jerseys are a big deal to kids. And Jimbo's really, really anal about, for whatever reason, what these kids can wear. Certain times of socks. And he's really controlling about that stuff. And that's just something as a coach, I don't think personally, in this day and age, that you can get off anymore. Back in the day when nobody could transfer, yeah, do what you want. But these days you kind of have to cater to the kid a little bit more. It's just the day and age we live in. If you can get Jimbo, we should snag him. Listen, I'm not saying I would hate it, but I think there are other names I would like to look at as well. You know, you can't convince me that Rich Rod doesn't deserve a look. That's just me. I know there's a lot of people that hate him forever. I'm not one of them. Tony Gibson, you got to go to the donors and at least talk. You got to have that conversation. Me and Coos were having this conversation the other day. What have we not had in a long time at West Virginia, and what did Oregon do? What have other places done that's really worked well for them? Georgia hiring a defensive head coach, and I think there's something to that because defensive head coach worry about the defense, which is really the most important part. Having a good offense is important. Having a good defense is just a little bit more important, especially in college football, because you're always in the game, right? No matter what, you can hang around. You can score 1,000 points and fumble one possession, and if you can't stop anybody, you're screwed. So, defensive coach like Brent Venables will say, "Yeah, here, let me hire a guy that just gives them full control." and a lot of times roster control. So if you can land on a good defensive head coach, and then he hires the right OC, a lot of times you can take off from right then and there. So, and that's what you've seen Georgia do under Kirby Smart. You've seen Oregon do this year under Dan Lanning. They've got the best defense they've ever had in Oregon, and that's saying a lot. They've had some good ones. So something to consider. Like Jimbo and Rich Rod are all offensive guys. Tony G is a defensive guy, and I just worry. Here's what I worry about. Tony Gibson is the home run hire that nobody knows about. That whenever he goes somewhere, he's going to knock that thing out of the park and win a lot of football games. And we're going to be saying in 5 or 6 years, because he's going to get a job this year probably, and he's waiting for this one. Most of us know that. But in 5 or 6 years, I think some of us are going to look at Tony and say, we should have grabbed Tony. I don't know. I have a gut feeling that might happen. Neil proved himself today, John Waffle. Thanks for the comment, brother. What's up, Bob Gurney? Good. Subscribe to the channel, man. Listen, Blake, one thing you should never do is hold up an entire program for players. In this day and age, you can get more. I understand there's a lot of pieces in place here, but if Wren has done the evaluation and believes that Neil Brown is not the guy, the best thing you can do is let him go fast and get behind and try to get another layer of attention. I don't think that's going to happen at all. I don't. I'm just saying if you do, that's how you do it. You don't wait, obviously. So, and that's one thing we know about Wren as well. If he's going to fire Neil Brown, um, it'll be as soon as the Baylor game's over, probably right after, the day after, because you really got to get on that next coach ASAP if that happens. We still got to win that Baylor game, guys. I think he's still under evaluation. I really do. I really truly do. I think things have gotten better because of this win, but a Baylor loss could undo some things. So we'll see. I do remember what Coach Rich Rod did to us, but at the end of the day, he can win, man, and I don't think he would do it to us again. You guys are tripping now. Hey, John, I don't know about that, man. I'm not on here saying that they should. I'm just talking about options. All right. Well, he's only got 7 right now, John. So that's the point. That's my point. You still got to beat Baylor. You know, you can't lose to Baylor. You just can't. Um, but at the end of the day, and I don't know if people just turn their ears off whenever you say this out loud. He's 0 games on the road against winning teams, and never been in the top 25. The only bowl game he's ever won was over Army. Those things aren't impressive and are worrisome. And yes, did it used to take coaches 4 and 5 years like Frank Beamer to build something up? Yes, it did. But when you look at the landscape, you look at Brian Kelly, for instance. Central Michigan, he inherited a 4-7 football team. Inside of 2 years, they were undefeated. And in today's day and age, would play playing for a New Year's Six game. At Cincinnati, he inherited another 4-7 football team or somewhere thereabouts. And inside of 3 years, you saw where they were at. They were undefeated. And he inherited Notre Dame. Inside of 3 years, they were 12-0 playing in the national championship game. I say all that to say Brian Kelly is a great program builder, and he'll do the same to LSU. There's no doubt. They'll probably win one under him there. But Brian Kelly's don't grow on trees, but I'm saying the opposite can also be true where you give a guy just too much time, And 5 years in, I'm not impressed with 7 wins. I'll be impressed with 9. Win the next 2, and you won me over for another year. Other than that, I'm gonna be skeptical. That's where I'm at with it. I don't know who disagrees or agrees, but that's kind of where I'm at. Well, can you clarify that? Oh, you're a tool. You're a tool, man. Us real fans? Okay. Listen, man. I don't know who you are. I mean, maybe I've seen you on here before, but he's doing a great job. Really? Nobody said blue blood. You took it to blue blood status. But I think being able to compete for a conference championship one every 2 or 3 years is in the cards. Maybe 4 years. Uh, Being ranked in the top 25 one time inside of 5 years should be in the cards. And having a at least a 500 record on the road against teams with 500 or better record should be in the cards. Don't give me that bull crap. I'm not going to listen to that, man. Put you in timeout. Don't make me do it. Yeah, David. Looks like there was 48 something, 48,000 something like that today. So it's a little, unfortunately, a little bit underwhelming for Don. So I really hope that they would show out. You know, if I was in Baker, I'd have figured out a way to give away 12,000 more tickets so we could fill that thing up for Don Nealon. But unfortunately, we couldn't. You know, um, I hate it. He is the standard bearer in a lot of ways as a man, and I probably should have said something about him earlier. I was just kind of fixated on other things, but Don Nealon means a lot to the program. I think we all know that. We need to enjoy him while we still got him. He's obviously lost a step. I was listening to him in the booth. I mean, he's still sharp, but he's not as fiery as he used to be. And um, part of me wishes he was still young enough to coach. That'd be our solution. But he'd be way in over his head in today's day and age. It'd take him a full year just to even figure out what's going on, even in his prime. So, but yeah, he deserves all the flowers he could get. It's a shame he didn't make it to West Virginia 10 years sooner. Thank you, Jacob, for the super chat, my dude. The only way I say keep Neil for 1 more year is if you, I would say the only way I say keep Neil for 1 more year is if does not bring home Big 12 championship, then fire him. Thanks, Jacob. So you're talking about next year. So if Neil Brown doesn't win a national championship next year, uh, you're saying fire him. Um, it's time. It's time definitely for him to do something, right? Um, I mean, at least put us in the Oklahoma position next year, right? Where at the end of the year, you're ranked inside the top 20, and maybe you're one of 3 teams fighting for the to go to the Big 12 championship game. I think that's fair. 6 years in, 6 years is a long time, man. So you're bringing up odd points, man. Like Pitt has nothing to do with the Big 12. Neither does Penn State. You know, we're talking about the Big 12. Should we be able to compete with Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, or not Oklahoma now, but Kansas State, Iowa State, Utah? Yes, we should. Historically, we should. What's crazy is historically, once you remove it all, BYU's got a national championship, but I mean overall they still haven't been a better historical football team than us. We're probably the number one historically the best team over time left after Oklahoma and Texas. We don't play like it anymore, obviously. Um, I mean, 2012 is a long ways away. That's 10 years ago. We sent Dabo this way with the loss somehow, So unfortunately, it is what it is. But it's all right. I'm who could do better than Neil Brown? I mean, that's the thing. You got to have an athletic director that, I mean, I can name definitely a couple guys. Lance Leipold would be a guy that I would look to immediately if you want me to say plug him in and what would he do? Lance Leipold, give me him. He'll figure it out at West Virginia, I think. Um, that would be somebody. If you're just giving me free reign, you can even look to somebody like Lane Kiffin, Lincoln Riley. If you're just giving me free reign, who could do better? Lots of guys, but that are realistic for us to actually obtain. Then it gets dicey, right? I mean, there are questions with each and every candidate. Uh, I appreciate you being in here and stuff, man, but I just you're a little bit out of my wheelhouse with the kind of stuff you're talking about. So feel free to say what you need to. But I don't really know how to debate you with what you're saying there. But all the coaches that are out there obviously have their questions. You can look at any of them. Whether it's Tony Gibson, he's never been a head coach before. Rich Rodriguez is obviously he left us in shambles and has had problems winning other places at the Power Five level other than West Virginia, although he has been successful at times. Jimbo Fisher has an incredible resume, but then at his best, as far as resources go, job ever, kind of just a smidge above mediocre, you know. And so, what would he do at a place like West Virginia with less resources, where we'd actually put a little more elbow grease into it? I don't know. Um, and then you look at a guy like Kurt Cincinatti, who I think a lot of people say, hey, there's a West Virginia guy that nobody talks about, who he just lost Appalachian State today somehow, ruined their undefeated season. But he's never coached he's a head coach at the major Power Five level. So there are questions with all the guys, man, and Jamie Chadwell is another name I think a lot of people have a lot of faith in. And it's over at Liberty, who's done an incredible job. You've got the guy over at uh, Texas State, or is it UT San Antonio? Uh, whichever one of the two, But he's done an incredible job over there, and a lot of people say he's really ready to be the next big name. I don't know. We'll see. Senator dropped every year since Brown was hired. Yeah, yeah. That actually, it's funny you mentioned that, David. He actually came out the other day on a radio station, and I even made a thumbnail for it because I almost did a video on Gary Patterson returning. I don't know about Doc Holliday. He's way too old now, David. He's he's past his prime. Um, but I see where you're going. Love Doc Holliday and everything he meant to us, but he's just a little past his prime now. But on that note, Charles Huff, he's done a really solid job at Marshall. This year they didn't have the best year, but overall he's done a pretty damn good job there. Um, but I mean, just saying that they could do better without really knowing, like, if I asked you to put your life savings on that, would you do it? Like for real? You know, like we don't know for you don't know no. You're just saying it, and I'm the more analytical. So I mean, you're entitled to that opinion, David, and I definitely. Did you say Dana could do better? Come on, man, you're losing credibility now. I mean, he'd probably do something. I don't want nothing like what Dana has to offer us. Here, listen, guys, this is just me. I don't ever, if I never see another Graham Harrell spread offense, as long as I live, it'll be too soon. That don't fit us. I'm glad Neil Brown does what he does and doesn't return to his roots because I can't deal with it no more. Running 85, 90 plays, not giving the defense a rest, never having a defense drives me freaking wild, man. It really does. Like, I love our historical the way we play. Now, if a guy came in and recruited to a certain style and made it work and we won with it, of course I'd be okay with it. But generally speaking, we are Major Harris, Pat White, Skylar Howard, Rasheed Marshall. That's not a fluke. That's because these are the type of that's just who we thrive as, and Garrett Green now. So I don't know, man. I mean, I don't want to get into all that. Yeah, Gibby. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Gibby is another. I worry about it. I worry that we didn't pull the trigger on him because I think he's still young. He's hungry to prove himself at the major Power Five level. I mean, he's had really good defenses across 20 years now, and so all he would have to do is hire an offensive coordinator with an offense that, and he's been around enough good ones. Uh, and he knows what will complement him. I really think Gibby's going to do well wherever he goes. And his defenses are only going to improve, probably because he's going to put those first. you know, so I could definitely talk myself into some Gibby. All right, guys. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the game. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. About an hour in, and I'm going to relax for the rest of the night at 7 o'clock. Really hope you enjoyed everything and enjoyed debating you guys. Um, I'll be releasing a couple videos here in the next couple days. I'm pretty excited about. Hope you guys will tune in to see those. There's 84 of you guys in here. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you can. Means a ton, as always. Um, and like I said, thank you guys for always being loyal and tuning in. Thanks, Joey, for coming in and talking to everybody too. All right, guys, I'm gonna head out. West Virginia wins in a blowout, 42-21. Jaheim White turning into a star right before our very eyes. It's been another edition of Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. This episode is over. I'm out.